Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good time of day. Welcome back to the LAMDA log. We're going for week 4, day 4, the 5th of February 2026, Thursday. So this is normally a rehearsal day. I wasn't called in because we've started back over, but we did have a fascinating LAMDA lunch that I'll talk to you about. And before anything, we had a company meeting. And so, so for that company meeting, we were reminded by Ollie to look after ourselves this show week. The Jacobeans will be open to the E1s and the D2s, but there'll be limited seating. The Bravo performance is during reading week because they had a lot of people who couldn't commit to it. Because they got busy with other things. So that's why they did it on reading week, which is why I cannot participate. We will have new groups beginning after reading week for our projects of Spanish Golden Age, which will be sick. A reminder not to miss warm-ups, that there's visa implications involved, that we need to be there, and that's part of our schedule. Even if we're not called in, we're expected to be on campus. And then we elected our new student reps for the second half of the course. And we had wonderful previous reps. I put my name in again, didn't get voted. I lost by 1 vote to a tie with the two that were running against me. I mean, we're just like, I'd like to be considered. We got a great new rep, stoked about it. And then we all met together to begin just a quick check of costumes and things with Tispiti. So it was great. And then they started working on scene 5. I worked with a few of the people who are doing the dance just to make sure we got it. It went well. Awesome. Then I did some independent work. I worked on my thesis a little bit, my thesis proposal, which is due on Monday. And then I was able to go to the lunch with Dave Hearn. Dave Hearn is a founding member of Mischief Theater, who does The Play That Goes Wrong, Peter Pan Goes Wrong, The Goes Wrong Show, and all of its connections. He's a LAMDA grad, so are the other founding members of Mischief. They all met in the foundation course, which is just a 1-year course. And yeah, I'll just read my notes. So he's currently teaching acting for comedy for the Bs, which are the bachelor students' second year. His course leader was really focused on improv, and then Henry Lewis wanted to start an improv company together, and he just came up and he was like, Dave, would you like to create improv together? Something like that, you know? And then they did Camden Fringe. And the first time they did it just like as an improv troupe, like half of the troupe was late. And then they made them like improvise why they were late and stuff. And it was just a mess. And they frequently made audience join in for their improv because they took their improv show and then they like would do it for paying audiences and live and things. And so they would have performances where there were more performers on stage than audience members, so they get the audience involved. And foundation was less about training to him, and it was more about the opportunity, because he found these like-minded people who like to do what he liked to do. And so I should always be aware and looking for those opportunities. He said he really cultivated a culture of commitment. And he said he wanted to start the David Hearn Drama School of Commitment, where one day they all show up, they get assigned roles, and it's not your type and it's not anything, but you're this role now, and then you have 2 weeks to like put up a show, or it might have even been like a week. It's like, yeah, fine, Julius Caesar, you're Brutus, you're Mark Antony, and we're going to do the show, and just be all in. And he just realized that these people that he started this with, they just kept turning up. Failure was scary, and the success was exciting, though minimal. And they really liked each other, and always knew someone in LAMDA who could book a room on Saturday for like 6 hours so they could practice their improv. Frequently, it was Rodney, and after they graduated, they would be like, "Hey, Rodney, can we get a room?" He's like, "You've graduated. You shouldn't be here." And then he would like send him a cheeky little note that said, "I heard that this room would be open on Saturday," so they would come in. When they would charge £5 for improv shows every weekend and performed for paying audiences, which was huge for them at the time. And then the one facilitating the kind of interview asked what kept them going, and his first answer is stupidity. He's like, it's hard not to say that, but there was also the potential of this dream. And it's interesting because he didn't know what the dream was. He said if you asked him then, like, what was the dream? He's like, I don't know. I don't know what it was. He had this desire to perform and create, but they didn't really know how to realize it or what it really even was, which I relate to. It was just this idea that they could do something. And they started out their little mischief theater with 300 pounds. And I think I'm getting this right. The number in 5 years, they had like 10,000 pounds as a collective. And so they wanted to make a Christmas show because Christmas shows made money. And so it was originally called The Murder at Christmas, which became The Murder at Haversham Manor, which then had to be renamed The Play That Goes Wrong because, and it's the same show that's performed all over the world today. But it's funny, they had to name it something different because people always thought they were messing up. And they're like, yeah, so they'd get really upset and be like, you're awful. And it's like, no, that's the point. But so they called it The Play That Goes Wrong. And then, oh yeah, Dave said he was putting in like 20-hour days. And they used to, they started at this small little like Lion Theater, Red Lion Theater or something like that. And then they were able to get it up to Trafalgar Studios. But the thing about that is to afford the rent, they had to do 2 shows a night. And so if you've ever seen The Play That Goes Wrong, there's always this beginning like antics of the cast like walking around the stage and throwing things together and doing all that. And that developed naturally because between shows they would have to fix the set and they would have to get the other audience out quickly so that they could put in a new audience. And it was hard and it was scary, but it was fun. And they never had a director, so it was just these group of friends putting on a show. And Dave said he was always a menace and always trying to get people to break and see how far he could push things. But he said he was living off of cigarettes and black coffee, and then one meal at the restaurant he worked because the chefs were worried he was going to waste away. But when he was hungry, he would smoke a cigarette, and when he was tired, he'd drink some coffee. And to really do what he was doing, he would on a day that there was no show, he would do a double shift at the restaurant, and a day off at the restaurant, he would do a 3-show day. And so he was just constantly working and performing as much as he could. And then the writers during this time when they were kind of off the West End and doing their own thing, the writers were offered £10,000 to buy the script, but then it wouldn't be guaranteed that any of them would be involved. They're like, well, definitely the Chris Bean character would be recast and we put like a big name in there. But Dave was like, yeah, you should definitely do it. Sell the show. He's like, yeah, £10,000. That's great. But Henry Lewis was saying, he said, I don't like them. I don't think we should. Because they really believed in the thing they had. And at the time they were confident in themselves and believed that the show wouldn't work without them. And so luckily it paid off because I mean now it's this global phenomenon. Um yeah, then some questions were like, what does comedy look like now? And then there's like theater. There's different genres of comedies. There's theater comedy, which is more slapstick, and another thing. There's TV comedy, which is witty and clever, and then there's internet comedy, which is just like grab their attention as quickly as possible. There's no setup. There's no wasted time. It's just like these 10-second videos, right? And then he says he has like friends that have created these online personas, but that they're super hard workers. It feels like it's a little bit, but they're constantly writing every day and they're constantly working on material. And there's this phrase that's like be fun, be fast, be funny, f off. And so that's like he said that's a good principle to live by. Be fast, be funny, and get off the stage. Do the next bit. And live comedy is a lot more like stand up. So comedy is also been so politicized, and so there's like the red team and the blue team, and if you're on the blue team, you hate the red team, and if you're on the red team, you hate the blue team, and everything. And so you're just like saying things that people agree with. Um, but he was asked like what makes him laugh, and I don't know if this is a show or if it's just the concept, but trousers down, just like someone dropping their trousers. Anything that the people who worked on Flight of the Concords are involved in. He says that anything that's funny and anything that's good has one of the Flight of the Concords writers involved in it. He's currently watching What We Do in the Shadows, and he loves that. He thinks it's hilarious. And also Police Cops, the musical, is apparently hilarious. Um, and this, this is a little controversial. I hope he's fine with me sharing it with all three of the people who watch this. But he said how, in a way, he was disappointed by Operation Mincemeat. And not because it wasn't great, because he thought the show was really good, but the way that people were talking about it is he thought it was going to be like genre redefining and changing. But it was just really good theater. And he says that so much of what people do is people are always thinking that they're looking for the next big new thing, but it's all the same. It's just it's just the same things that people are doing. Like even the Goes Wrong show is very based on slapstick and improv and all these things. But something he said with making new material is meet people that you like, do what you like, and put it in front of an audience as fast as possible. If it's a half-baked show, it doesn't matter. Create and show it. And an audience will tell you if it's good much better than anyone else. Excuse me. And then Dave hates being given reverence, especially with crappy ideas. It's like, yeah, he worked with this one director. I think it was on 39 Steps, and and he kind of had a name for himself. He was one of the Goes Wrong guys. Shout out Sandridge. And so he would always be pitching his ideas, and the director was always like, "Oh yeah, that's great, Dave. That's great. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it." And so he started like pushing and like saying awful ideas, and then he's like, "Okay, you and I both know that's awful." And so, um, and so he doesn't like that, and he tries to break that down as quickly as possible. It's like, yeah, like be respectful, but don't just say my ideas are good because I'm who I am. Um, and so someone asked like how the Goes Wrong show like really developed, and it started out with they had 50 minutes of material, and then at the end they would do 10 minutes of questions and answers, just like improvise because they wanted to get it up to an hour. And then what's crucial is to know who has the focus and whose joke it is. And then when you pull attention and when you give attention. And then after improv, they would discuss what worked and what didn't. So after like every improvisation show and everything, they would do a little post-mortem, and they would sit and they'd like have a pint and just talk about, okay, what worked and why did it work and what didn't and why didn't it. And then know your inner clown, right? There's this idea of clowning, and Dave was saying how his first time like really having success with this and doing it is he played this character that was like this insecure clown, and it took him like 80 performances or something. I don't think I wrote it down, but to finally feel like he got it. Oh yeah, here it is. It took him 80 performances is way off, but 28 shows of Magic, which was I think their first show, which was this like failed magic show. Ooch. Um, and to like feel like he really understood the clown. But for example, like the inner clown, Harry, I believe, who I think is the other Henry, who plays Chris Bean. Not totally sure, but he's always his like inner clown is he's always performing Hamlet. Everything he's doing is just the highest peak Shakespearean posh performance, and he's a kind of posh guy. Um, and so it like really works with who he is. And then um, people asked him like, "Oh, is Harry Henry? Um, is he an idiot or is he a genius?" And Dave is like, "Oh, I know him very well, and he's a genius, and he just knows how to play into the expectations of who he is." Oh, and when they were producing Comedy of Spies, which was their a full length show that wasn't like connected with Goes Wrong, um, like with the concept of like messing things up, was like during previews before they opened the show, they had 30 pages of rewrites, and so it was constantly pushing for that perfection and improvement. So then there was the question of like where he learned the technicality, and it was mostly on the job. And he didn't love the way he was taught to clown, because a lot of it was just with an audience that it's hard to read, because drama people are like supportive and helpful, and so we all have this desperation to be good and to impress, and that desperation is like clouding ourselves. You want to just like strip that away and just be yourself. And failure is great, but you don't have to feel good about it. It's hard. Failure is awful, though it is helpful. And so that was kind of the gist with him. And he's a cool guy. I really hope I get a chance to talk to him a little more. He's around the building, which is cool too. And then I had some independent time, and I paced the East Wing, and I just ran my lines over and over again. I think I did that for like a few hours. It's probably 2 hours, but felt like 4. And then I joined in rehearsal just to see what was going on. And I watched a little while I worked on my thesis and some other things. And a thought that I had, or something that I overheard Nicholas say, was that to keep it conversational tone, but make sure not to add breaks and commas where there aren't written. And that was Thursday. Yeah, that was a good day. Friday was the last day of, well, I'll get to that next, but it was the last day of skills classes. So we're getting there. Anyway, love you lots. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye.